Hey guys, Lukey here, coach of the Olivine City Beacons, and that means, if you're hearing my voice, it's time for another season of DPDL low tier draft. I've been frothing at the mouth, waiting for this thing. I just bought a new microphone, fairly low end, but hopefully a little bit easier to record, and hopefully I'm coming through crystal clear. So, um, where do we want to start? Well, I want to talk a little bit about my team because I'm really excited about this squad. It's a quirky looking squad, but you dig under the foundation a bit, and there's a lot of fun here that I think is going to be had with this crew, and especially with poor Omerta feeling under the weather. Well, I'm not going to do a power rankings because I hate ranking things, but I'm going to go through some of the teams, give some thoughts on them, talk about the guys that I'm really scared to face. So you'll see here on the left part of my screen, this is my prep doc, and I have my team overview here. So these are the 11 Mons that I'm hoping this season, even in a reduced 12-team league, can take me as far as it can, at least to playoffs, and I would love to be able to win a round this year, although I was trounced by a superior player in Boss last season. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the philosophy of my team, a little bit and how we got to this point. Well, you'll see that based on my actual draft and the 11 Mons that are here, there was one change, and part of that is because I started this team thinking I'd like to use Terra Dragonair. It is the only Mon in the tier that can Terra and use extreme speed. Okay, I guess Dratini can technically use it, but who's going to use that? And I just wanted to take a Pokemon like that and see what I could build around. And then I had a few drafts, the team had some ideas, and when the actual draft rolled around, that completely went out the window. Especially when the doc dropped, and I'm going to pull up the doc here. Oh, there's the teams. So looking at the left part of my screen again, looking at the 18 pointers, 18 through 16 saw a number of new Mons get dropped in, and particularly in 18 points, where all of a sudden it's very crowded. And even if we had a 16-team league, some of these absolute terrifying Mons were going to go undrafted anyway. I think looking at some of the names in yellow say enough. And even some of the, what are you doing dropping Tentacruel? Galarian Slowbro, Tauros Paldea Aqua, Rotom-Mow, Salazzle, heck, Klefki, Swellow, just really, really good Mons. Even a number of Mons that just won the championship are now sitting in free agency waiting to get used or waiting for another season to be drafted. So it speaks to the increase in the power level. Obviously, we've got demons like Cabalion, but I think generally, Mons that were dropped in by Omerta, while it raised sort of the speed threshold and a bit of the power threshold, a lot of these Mons have clear drawbacks that mean that I don't think they're going to be too overpowered, with maybe a couple exceptions. But anyway, I see this, the draft starts, and I'm picking 10th out of 12. So, fucking course, I'm near the end. And certainly, Mons that I had on my radar, I thought about, could I build a team around Delphox and use it again, or use it for the first time, I should say. Boz smacked me around in the playoffs with it so badly last season. My team was really weak to Delphox. And how do I prevent that? I draft it first round. I was also looking at Mesprit as sort of a bulky psychic, like an all-arounder. My concern was, in terms of the Mons I was thinking of using, that Mesprit as a round one is a bit on the slow end, And of course, then it goes after me at 11th overall to Boss. And when I get to his team, I'll talk about how sick I think it is. But anyway, at 10th overall, first round pick, Del Fox. Del Fox, I thought in the last format, notwithstanding that I got clobbered by it, I think it was borderline broken. And I think you can make an argument that it shouldn't have been draftable. It basically acted like Iron Valiant. Um, Maybe that's a hot take, maybe that's a bitter take, but the key thing I think that makes Del Fox such a broken, or not broken anymore, but such a powerful mon is that base 104 speed. Especially last season, the threshold was like the faster, better mons are all around the base 100 level, and Del Fox got the jump on them almost exclusively, and there's very few things that are both viable and outspeed Del Fox. This season, not so much. In terms of the mons that got drafted, there's Heliolisk, there's Galvantula, um, Salazzle outspeeds, but it's not drafted. Now there's Crobat, mons that are, just a little bit faster that get the jump on it. Going to be more matchups where a mon like Delphox has to run Scarf or have some kind of speed support. So it's a little bit more kept in check. But generally speaking, and this hasn't changed too much, Psychic is a great type in low tier. Delphox base 114 special attack is one of the strongest. It has just enough special bulk to be able to eat a hit, and that Fire Stab allows it to get around steel types, allows it to hit dark types really hard neutrally, and there's really no dark type in the tier that likes to switch in. And any of the mons that 4 times resist or resist both of Delphox's stabs are usually taken out by coverage. Like Guzzlord would on paper look really good, but then it's taking 4 times damage to Dazzling Gleam. Sorry guys, a little bit something stuck in my throat there, but Delphox, yeah. So if you can't beat them, join them, and that's what I was thinking with Delphox. It's fast, it's powerful, it's got a great typing. Physical, maybe the biggest downside is that in a tier with a lot of strong, hard-hitting fighting types, having your Psychic not be a good fighting type switch in is a problem, and Delphox is definitely going to struggle with that. It's here to kill things. It's not here to switch in and soak up a hit. So looking at that, I'm thinking the team around it needs a couple of things. I need a bit of mons that are a few mons that are faster. I need some things to take Delphox's weaknesses into account, and I need a few things that are just gonna keep opponents honest. And what do I mean by that? Well, first thing, let's look at Delphox's weaknesses. Ground, dark, water. Those are the first. I think those are the only 3. Maybe, I guess rock too. So that was a bit on my shopping list, but I was also drawn to the 16-point range and one of my favorite Pokemon, which is Sirfetch'd. And Sirfetch'd sitting here in the 16-point tier, it's one of those rare Pokemon with no Smogon moveset analyses, and to figure out, how other people have tended to use it, you kind of have to do some digging. And, Sirfetch'd, couple of things that immediately stuck out. First off, I'm partial to the mons that I like. When I was in college, I did part of the Smogon forums, the old Scramble Challenge. Did a run of Heart Gold, Soul Silver, where I had Farfetch'd with perfect IVs, and basically have people on the forum give you challenges and a team to work through the game with, and it was one of my favorite runs and experiences playing Pokemon. And so Farfetch'd has always been sort of a sentimental favorite. And when it got an evolution in Gen 8, I was like, fuck yeah. I used it even though it didn't make sense on my Sword and Shield team. And Surfetched, it's just a really, really souped up version of Farfetched, and I'm sad it's tied to a Galarian form. It's probably never coming back to a game, but or at least not for a while. Now let's talk about Surfetched. The number one trait that stands out is that among the Pokemon drafted by all the players, there's the second highest base attack stat at 135. So immediately, Surfetch'd is going to be hitting everything hard. What does it have over similar fighting types? Because if you look at the tier list, uh, Primeape, Sock, Passimian, um, you know, Emboar, Pangoro, there are a lot of really, really good, strong fighting types. What separates it from the others? Couple of things. First off, that attack stat. It's better than everything except Rhyperior. So it's stronger than all those other fighting types. Then gets first impression. It's got a 90 base attack, 90 base power bug priority move that means dark types, psychic types, a couple of things that, Delphox is not going to want to deal with. It can come in and threaten those. It's obviously not going to be switching into a psychic type, but it sets up all kinds of revenge kill scenarios. And for Surfetched, it really allows it to run more bulk. And it doesn't necessarily have to invest in speed or otherwise to invest in enough speed to get past the slower things it wants to target. Because at base 65, it's all right. The other thing Surfetch really has going for it is scrappy, which means with two moves, close combat and whatever coverage I want, I can hit everything neutrally or super effective. It's got like basically if it's hitting something hard, or if something's coming in, it gets in, like it's taking damage. Other nice things about Surfetched is it has an exclusive item in Leak, which means good luck trying to calc for this thing. It doesn't necessarily need Leak, but basically at a 50% crit bonus to every single one of its attacking moves, this thing is going to absolutely blow holes in teams, and it's completely terrifying to think about. And it's got some decent coverage. It's also got defog. So immediately right there, I was thinking, and you can see I drafted a low point spinner, relatively low point spinner. Hazard removal was difficult. So round 3, Comfey, also new, also 16 points. I've been wanting to draft Comfey for a long time. There was a lot of there was a few new fairy types introduced in the tier list. I really wanted Galarian Rapidash, but then I drafted Delphox, and then Ryan took Rapidash. And so I'm thinking, priority, utility, fairy typing. I don't know, looking at all the teams, if fairy typing is really as strong as people were hoping it was going to be, because there aren't many good dragons, and the really good dragons in the tier, for the most part, have a way to get around fairy types like Comfey. But Comfey gets a lot of nice things, especially in Nat decks. It keeps aromatherapy. It's got U-turn. It's got its priority healing moves. So Giga Drain, can really do some damage to bulky ground types. Draining Kiss means that fighting types and dark types really have to be careful. Those are two things that Delphox doesn't like. And generally speaking, while Comfey lacks that initial power, it's got pretty decent bulk. Its speed tier doesn't matter that much, but a natural base 100 means that even uninvested, I can outspeed a lot of things. And that's terrific. So additionally, Hi guys, if you hear a sudden cutout in this video and you heard me address my dog there, she has joined me, and my border collie Freya is now hanging out with me and demanding pets while I talk about Mons, and I think that's a good reminder for me to start moving on a little bit and moving through these a bit faster. So, Comfey, again, great utility, bulky win condition Mon, love it. So, round 4, things are starting to go. A Mon that I was looking at was Skuntank. grounded poison, and a dark type because I need some kind of ghost resist and something that can help Delphox out that way. Um, but eventually I settled on a mon that I've been looking at since the beginning of planning this team, which before Delphox came in the picture was going to include Decidueye. And one of the great partners for that, but also just a great utility mon generally, is Bombardier. And I'm going to use the Canadian pronunciation of that because it sounds like Canadian company Bombardier. And oh, thanks, Frey. Bombardier fills a ton of roles. Oh, Jesus. Bombardier fills a ton of roles here. Last season, I had so much success with Honchkrow, and Honchkrow has that game-ending ability with Moxie and that extra attack stat. It's obviously quite a bit stronger than Bombardier, but Bombardier, the big difference between it and Honchkrow is I can actually use it in all three phases of the game with its utility. It can come in and set rocks turn one, parting shot out, U-turn out, get some momentum. Mid game, it can be a breaker. It's got that stab brave bird. It's got just enough that it needs, and it's obviously got stab knockoff, which is going to be very key. Um, uh, it also sneakily, I mean, obviously base 60 special attack sucks, but it gets nasty plot and it gets just enough in its special move pool to be able to do the things that it wants to do and cause some problems. So basically, the idea was I loved Honchkrow. Bombardier is a really popular low tier Pokemon for its utility, and I wanted to give it a shot. So round 4, get that locked down, especially since Skuntank went just before my pick. Round 5, as the team's starting to take shape and I can see my roster coming together, see what the budget I have is, and at this point what mons from my wish list I can get. I was struggling with a few things. I had basically 2 water, 2 grass, and 2 ground type spinners that I was looking at, and I didn't really care which of them I got. So I decided to hastily and probably foolishly pick Dragonair because I wanted to use it as a Terra Captain. And after doing a little team building sesh and talking to my boy James, he suggested just looking one spot down the tier list sheet and going with Dracloak. And I thought, wow, that solves all the problems I had with my team, or at least in terms of looking at my type chart. Dracloak, great speed tier at 102, comes with some priority like Dragonair, although obviously not quite as good. Not nearly as bulky, but again, that speed. It has decent attacks. It has a decent attack stat. I think it's the same or within 1 or 2 points of Dragonair. So it can actually do some damage. It has high-powered base. It has high base power special moves to use, like Draco Meteor. But more importantly, and I think where Dracloak is really going to shine, is in its utility move pool. Having that low tier mon with U-turn is really important, so it's not as passive as Dragonair. Will-O-Wisp, Thunder Wave, screens. I don't know how much Dracloak is going to end up coming, but it's a cool mon. I think in this team and at this power level, it has a niche, as a utility spin blocker that can maybe do a little bit of damage. We'll see. I mean, it's a 3-point mon. I don't have high expectations, but in terms of what my team was missing, it checked a lot of boxes, and I'm happy to have it. So round 6, draft comes right back around to me because I was 10th, so I wasn't waiting long, and I go with one of the 2 Terra Captains, or the other Terra Captain that I had marked off in the beginning, which was Aggron. Aggron is a big, bulky bitch. It's a massive rock steel type. It's got big base attack, huge base defense, and in national deck, well, in national decks it has just a wide old gen move pool, the kind of move pool that even with its poor special attack, Terra can really take advantage of. But I liked both the versatility and when I used it 2 seasons ago in DPDL low tier season 3, as my Terra captain when I was a replacement coach. It put in just so much work. It's an absolute menace. It maintains, because of national decks, its ability to have all of its setup moves. It can iron defense, body press. It's got heavy slam, and you know that's coming, especially from a boy Nixie. Loves those heavy slams. Um, so Aggron. Well, I was looking at steel types like say Copper um, and I may still use it in the future. Aggron, just the ability, both in this case to Terra over Copperaja and get out of the bad sides of its typing, and also its ability to be both a defensive check and a win condition was really really powerful. And obviously, Rockhead Head Smash, you know, is going to uh, strike fear into opponents and force a lot of ground types, I think, to probably come against this team. So at this point, again, the draft is shaping up. I still have all of my choices for water, ground, and grass are still up, uh, and pretty much right before me. I'm trying to think of who took Samurott. Hi, hi, Freya. I'm coming right back, girl. Oh yeah, it was Goalkeeper. Okay, we'll talk about that. He drafts Samurott, and I think Goalkeeper, you made the mistake of not making it a Terra Captain. Um, Great water type mon. I had a lot of success with it last season. Even at 10 points, when I talked about it last season, that was underselling it. I still think it's underrated there. And I wanted to make it a Terra Captain, but the other reason that I held off on that is because Golduck was sitting there in 8 points. And I know a lot of people are like, what the fuck? Like, Golduck is the definition of mid. But hear me out here. Compared to Samurott, uh, well, first off, there's not many bulky water types to begin with, and a lot of the good ones had already been drafted. And but let's talk about it in comparison to Samurott and a lot of the other mons in that range. I'll maybe include Poliwrath here. Comparable bulk. Certainly comparable bulk to Samurott. Basically, slightly different distribution, but in their base typing, they can take basically the same hits. A little bit of a power loss for sure. Base 85 attack and base 95 special attack are... The special attack is okay. The attack is mediocre. Um, the biggest differences, though, base 85 speed. Absolutely, that extra 15 points in speed over Samurott and the extra 20, I think, over Poliwrath are both huge. It makes it that much more dangerous naturally. It includes, if I decide to invest in bulk, there's another whole set of bulky mons that I can just naturally outspeed. But in terms of this team, the real value is, and especially it helped made me decide to drop Dragonair as a Terra Captain much easier, is that I could run Golduck and Aggron together as Terra Captains. And that means two useful mons that are going to come to a lot of games can both run Terra in the same match. Obviously, they can't both use it, but the mind games for opponents of thinking about which one is going to end up Terraing gives me a lot of extra flexibility in team building and problem solving that I really, really like. And in terms of Golduck, what you also get over Samurott is some of its really old gen move pool is still floating around. It has some really fucking janky things it can do. And Nasty Plot instead of Sword Stance is also nice. And with mons like Pelipper and Ninetales both running around low tier this season, although I don't expect weather to be a big part of it, Golduck has two great weather-based abilities that can either help shut down the weather or, in the case of rain, take advantage of it. And it also doesn't preclude Golduck from bringing its own rain. And being an absolute menace. Can't imagine that a lot of mons want to take Terra Water boosted anything in the rain. Having flip turn and all that stuff is also a big boon. So draft is coming down to the wire. At this point, basically everybody's blown their wad and spent all their points. And I was feeling pretty confident that I could just scoop up everybody that I wanted to have and fill out sort of the corners of my roster. But I decided again, because I still had options, I wanted to focus on the lowest point mon left on my board, because with everybody doing the auctions and being ahead of me basically in the pick order, they were snapping up the low point mons faster, and I didn't want to lose this. So pick number 8 is Electric, and it's my NFE bulky Eviolite Mon, but look at its stats, guys. For an NFE Mon, it's pretty darn good. Base 85 attack, base 75 special attack means that it's not going to hit too hard, but it's going to be able to do stuff. It can use Toxic, it can use Knockoff, it's going to Volt Switch. It's going to be a great pivot. It's an extra ground immunity, which this team desperately needed. It's Electric Stab, which, again, I'm going to have to find a way to really pump it up, but that is, always useful. And there's a couple of really good resistances that it brings in this case that my team really benefits from. And I just felt, I look at my roster and I think Electric can come with anybody. Like if I just need something bulky to help the team out, and provide some utility to the squad, that this thing's going to put in work. And I think its body of work in some of the high tier leagues this season speaks volumes. This is a mon that could perform without Terra at the highest levels. So Electric, welcome to the squad. Pick 9, we're winding down, and at this point, I went, Decidueye no longer made sense, and I no longer had the budget for it. And while the biggest problem I have usually is picking my grass type, but at 9 points, Vileplume is an absolute steal. This thing is still in current gen, never used. It's ranked higher than almost every other mon on this list. The list of mons that appear in a higher tier in Smogon are few and far between. And really, for 9 points, Vileplume, does so many things similar to Venusaur. It's obviously not the same offensive threat in Sun, but it brings so much to the table. And once you get past the fact that it's not a ground resist, but it does well into ground types, this is a mon that can be an absolute glue and annoyance to the squad. In a pinch, it could also give me another weather abuser, who knows? Certainly something to take account for. And even though I don't have Terra, offensively, because it's got base, like 105 or 110 special attack, it hits pretty hard. It's not going to be passive. And it's also, because I didn't get any mons with Flame Body or Static, it's got Effect Spore. It loves to run Rocky Helmet. This is going to be a thorn in everybody's side, and Freya is losing her mind over nothing downstairs. Hold on a second. Okay, we'll see. No, she'll sort herself out. Okay, so 2 spots left. At this point, I think I was like the only guy with any points left. So, Sandslash, round 10. I also had Claydol on this list, but I've used Claydol before. Well, I have used Sandslash, but it was on a terrible team. But with Claydol, I didn't want another dark weakness, and I didn't want another water and dark weak Pokemon to pair with Delphox, who was water and dark weak, because that puts a lot of strain on the team builder. Sandslash, good base attack, bulky physically, slow, especially frail, but it's like your low tier Donphan. Without priority, it's gonna put spikes, it's gonna put up rocks, it's gonna rapid spin things. I fell into the trap last season of having Cryogonal come to every game and act like a deterrent and an offensive spinner. I think the future, especially in Gen 9, is you have to run your spinner more offensively. Great Tusk is the ultimate example. You get so much more mileage out of it by being proactive with it, and I think Sandslash there can take some lessons from that. And at the same time, I needed a ground type. As much as I wanted to run Trap Inch, I've got a souped up version of Trap Inch minus Arena Trap in Surfetched that does the same like hit hard and revenge things with priority shtick. So Sandslash, very welcome addition there. And finally, the only Pokemon that I would say was really sniped on me in this draft was Lord Serenoa or Gabe sniping Perugly on me. If you look at my type chart, I'm just slightly weak to ice, and Perugly with thick fat solved all these problems while also being above base 110 speed and having the kind of priority that I was looking for. And I wanted Perugly. It got taken on me pretty early, and Gabe, you better bring it to some matches this season. So because I had so many points left, heading into my last pick, I had 9 points. So I needed a Mon faster than Delphox. It just wasn't going to be viable otherwise. And ideally, I needed a normal type. So Persian, welcome to the squad. I don't love Persian. It hits like a wet towel. I think I don't know what the term is. But let's look at its strengths here. It's a ghost immunity. My team needed a ghost immunity because all I have is Bombardier for taking on ghost type attacks. It has, going for it at least, Technician, which means, one, it can run some like weird special sets with Nasty Plot and Technician boosted moves. But boosts Fake Out, which can allow it to be an extra little revenge killer, something to get chips, something to take advantage of things. And luckily, while it trades a bit of that bulk to not be able to switch in as well as Perugly, it is slightly faster. Base 115, the list of things that are above base 115 are very, very short. But it gets knockoff, it gets U-turn. It can do most of the things that Perugly can. And even though I think it's a downgrade on Perugly for 4 more points, it's what I got. So here's the team. Again, I'm really, really excited to use it. It's got a great mix of immediate power, priority, utility, and there are lots of fun little synergies all through the roster, and I'm excited to use it because I think legitimately, 9 to 10 Pokemon are going to want to be coming every week or have something to do useful for me in every single matchup. And I'm that's the kind of thing that I aim for. My weaknesses are always, among others, that my teams aren't top heavy enough. And I make up for that by hopefully having a team that's difficult to prep for. And if you guess wrong on which of my role players might come along and make your day bad, it could go wrong for you. So, God, this video is already 30 plus minutes. So let's talk about the squads, my opponents. The divisions aren't set. Omerta's going to have that out soon. But let's talk about some of the other teams, and this will be a little bit more rapid fire, but I want to give you guys a little bit of insight into what I'm thinking about everybody. So first, my boy, my bestie, the best man at my wedding, the apple of my eye, Nixie. I'm so happy to have him back in low tier, and the team he's got. He decided to pull a Gabe and go with a balanced Sun team. And especially after Grace, he really made his team top heavy. Like he's got 2 1-point Mons that I don't know if they're ever going to come. Maybe once. Stantler is a hilarious Terra Captain choice, but one that could actually be really, really good for the squad. And then a top 7 that is just unbelievable, and I don't know, it's going to be really hard to break through because even if he just brought his 6 highest point Mons, Sneasel is sitting on the bench, but then he's got Terra Sneasel, And he could run Choice Band and essentially Adaptability Sneasel. That thing is going to claim lives. And that's not even getting through, getting to the fact that he's got a premium spinner. He's got an unreal Firewater Grass core. I think people really sleep on Ninetales, especially in low tier where the speed matters more. It is the superior Sunsetter to Torkoal. This is a dangerous team, and to top it all off, you've got Bronzong, who his team supports really really well. Um, this is going to be a scary squad. He's going to have the brute force to break through a lot of teams, and just it's a fairly straightforward game plan. You're really prepping for 7, maybe 8 mons tops, and you're going to have a hard time with it. All right, so let's talk about Chad Bombi. Again, really, really good player, and I'm glad he didn't burn out to the point of not coming back, because I know he was up in the air, and this team is just filthy. And the son of a bitch picked up Aromatisse, who went undrafted the first time through, and that thing is the scourge of low tier. I hate it. It's the pink big blob that won't die. And he's got such an interesting team. It's a real mix of just outright power and bulk. Pangoro obviously is going to be a handful. No one can switch. Like, I don't even know if he guesses correct on a prediction. There's really not even many fairy types that can switch in, and a lot of guys just didn't draft fairy. Um, so that's a problem. He's got again an underrated. Why didn't Omerta raise the price on Delmise? 12 points for a Grassco spinner that has steel stab, and everything else Delmise does well. You know, Muck also underrated special wall. Heliolisk, one of the top new mods, because he's got such a good defensive core around it. He's got the kind of team to really support this well. This thing's going to volt switch on everybody's ass, and there aren't any good ground type answers, really. It's sort of like you have to have something bulky enough to just switch in, take the hit, and then hope you can smack back. And that list is pretty short. Um, while he's got a water immunity in Heliolisk, his water resist, I guess, is Delmise, because Kabutops is not going to provide that. It's a backup spinner. It's a rain abuser if he needs to. Really, really strong. I love Kabutops. It's one of my favorite mons. I just always find competitively it's hard to use. And Magmortar, a mon that I really wanted to use as well. But, so this team head to toe really scary. The big bad mons, there are some speed issues. There's Kabutops at 80, and then there's like Heliolisk at 109, 100, somewhere around there. Very relevant speed tier, but one of the best. Outruns Delphox for sure. And then Magmortar at like 95, I think it is, or maybe it's 85. I can't remember. But in any event, he might have some speed issues where basically everybody's going to worry about outrunning Heliolisk, and then he's going to be the rest of his mons are going to be slower. So Greedy Dog. Greedy Dog went ahead and just picked Cobalion, which good for him. Looking at this squad, it's a really fun squad. It's full of mons that I would love to use. I loved Misdreavus. I'm glad he's making it a Terra Captain because I think it will really benefit from that. Blossom, I think Chad, gave it a good run. I think it was Chad that drafted Blossom. It still has some untapped potential. That big three, Cobalion, Sigalith, Quillfish, have really unreal defensive synergy. Like unreal defensive synergy. So unreal. Well, I guess he has a ground type in Zygarde 10%. Which is an okay ground type. It's offensively it's gonna be really scary. You've got 1,000 arrows and extreme speed. Glalie, another mon that I wanted to use. 3-point Spiker, I think is underrated. the bottom of his roster is a little bit messy. Tropius is probably never going to come, but the biggest issue I see is, while Kabalyan's got the speed, there is a real lack of immediate power on this team, and he's either going to be, choicing a lot of things or relying on the fact that he's got setup sweepers in Kabalyan, Sigalif, Blossom. I guess Zygarde too. It probably gets Dragon Dance. Uh, to take out his opponents. So he might struggle because there are guys that just they have mons that are going to hit immediately hard out of the box, and can he handle that? Quite Gold. So Quite Gold, once again, really, really interesting team. He did ask, we did have a nice chat at the end about how to fill in some of the gaps, and he ended up taking Vibrava, who is a ground type in name only. And that's sort of the biggest issue with the team is he doesn't have a good electric resist, and he doesn't have a good, well, he has a couple good electric resists. Shouldn't say that, but he doesn't have a good electric immunity. Speed tiers are all right. He's got two base 100 mons in Tauros and Celebi, but nothing higher. He's going to be relying a lot on webs from Masquerain and Masquerain using Quiver Dance. And again, there's at least three teams that have just unreal electric types. He's going to have to get really creative in trying to shut them down. But, Celebi is a 600 base stat Pokemon in fucking low tier. So, that he's going to be, with that move pool, it's going to be dangerous. And then there's stuff like Overquill. And certainly he has all of the ingredients to make life tough for ground types trying to take out Overquill. So Gullkeeper, another opponent I faced off against last season, and an opponent that drafted a lot of mons that I like again. Here's what I love about the draft: Samurott and Colossal should both be your Terra captains. Colossal just gets a lot of flexibility. That flame body, Terra Grass that bitch. Samurott, I think, has even more value if it's Terra'd, whereas Phalanx is still going to hit really hard, but you're not bringing Phalanx in to, have defensive utility or flip a matchup around. I don't know. He's got the pseudo Firewater Grass Core with Drampa and Sap Sipper there. Durant, I'm really interested to see what it does. It raises the speed bar here, and it's gonna hit things hard, but you have to run Hustle on it, I think. Maybe it also gets Swarm. So we'll see about that. Sandaconda, a great ground type. I do wonder, like Colossal with that 4x water weakness, even with Terra, and Sandaconda, sort of how he handles that. Because his other water resists are maybe not questionable. Well, Electro definitely is. You're using it for a bunch of other reasons. But Drampa for sure is not going to like the ice types that come running with it. But really fun looking team. I haven't even mentioned Weezing and Sableye. Like there's a lot of utility to help support and back up the fact that he's got 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, just like real heavy hitters. So Ryan and the Pittsburgh Piplups. Ryan always drafts interesting looking teams. Vikavolt, I hate the speed tier, but everything else about it is sick. Galarian Rapidash, I think, is a mon that should be explored more, maybe even as a Terra captain. That base 105 speed and just a good enough offensive, physically and specially based move pool to make it work. I think it's a really cool mon. Terra Flapple is going to be a problem. And if I was Ryan, especially with the lack of fairy types in the tier, the fact that he drafted 2 of them, you bring like Gluttony, Choice Scarf, Terra Dragon, Flapple every single week, and you just rain down Draco Meteors on everything. And for the things that maybe the only issue is that based on that line of thinking, steel and fairy types are a problem. Not when you have Chandelure, and I guess Mawile can be a good fairy remover. It depends. Some of them are gonna probably have its way with it. And Gloom is a very passive poison type. But I expect Terra Dragon Flapple to probably be like the most dangerous Mon Terra Captain in the whole tier, and that's even without looking at he's got some nice he's got some like it's a quirky team with the two electric types, but Oricorio Pom Pom. There's a lot of things you got to account for. That's two Quiver Dance sweepers. He's got the strongest base special attacker in the whole tier, and then Vikavolt. Like so teams are going to really have to look at their special bulk, because if you can even survive these two, like what the hell do you do about Flapple after that? All right, so let's talk a little bit about the bottom row here. So our defending champ, Lord Serenoa, and the half chub trubs without their logo yet in the dock. Gabe, I think, was a little bit flustered. It seemed like he was having trouble making his picks at first, but look at this fucking team. Um, how do you prep for this? Obviously, speed's not an issue. Perugly at 112. Tauros Paldea, once again, should not have been a Terra captain. Why did we all let this guy draft this thing again? It's the best. If it's not Flapple being the best Terra captain in the league, it's this base 100 speed fighting type that can now change its type and just fuck you over. Rotom Heat, Crobat, Rhyperior. Crobat, I know he was like, I don't know if he was super thrilled to get Crobat, but my God, like that speed tier, all the utility, it's such a good defensive mon. Offensive, it's okay. But then he's got glue guys like Tinkaton, Perugly, my beloved. The monkeys, I know everybody's gonna shit on the monkeys, and like Simipour is not a real water type, but base 97, base 97 speed? It's either 97 or 101. Like good speed tier, it's gonna hit fairly hard. The top Terra Captain that Boss had last season in Cacturn is just so filthy and is a great, even in its natural form, is just a great natural complement to Rhyperior. And it goes pretty well with Rotom Heat. So he's immediately got that going for him. Trubbish, even as the mascot pick, it can put up hazards. And Hypno as a bulky psychic, like I think it's kind of slept on in the sense that especially at 5 points, there are some high-end mons that are just going to be really annoyed by Hypno being around. My boy Tibby had like the fucking draft of all time. Maybe like it's everything just went his way. This is a fucking sick group. I don't think I think he only made like one move. I'm trying to think of who he traded away. It was something, Stoutland and Grafai came in. So Tib on paper has probably the best team in the league. Swampert, Serena, Incineroar is 3 18-point mons for your Firewater Grass core. It's unreal. It's got your spinner. It's got 2 mons that can pivot and wall break. It's got 3 mons that can pivot and wall break. There is so much compression going on there. The only downside is that Serena is the only water resist on this squad. It's the only one. Everybody else is neutral or worse, and that could be a problem for Tib. But he's got the bulk like Swampert, Incineroar. Xatu can be surprisingly bulky with the way it usually likes to be run, and it's a good hazard control method. Crabominable can be surprisingly bulky, and at 5 points, this thing could be an absolute menace. Dusclops is there for Trick Room. Don't remember if Xatu can as well, but like, guys, this could be the Tibbs revenge season, honestly. And somehow he's already got him down as 4 losses, but like, Everybody in the league would trade their team for Tibbs to be able to run it this season. Like it's got everything. It's got everything except for a fairy type. God damn it. uh, so you've got your work cut out for you against Terra, Dragon, Scarf, Flapple. But what a what a squad. What else can you say? On paper, these are just sick mons. And Gabite and Zipstrike are two really interesting Terra captains. On to Cavern. Good morning, Cavern. Um, Cavern, I think drafted a really, really fun team. He's got the potentially dangerous, but I think kind of overrated Terra Dug trio, and especially when that's your ground type, with the strength of some of the electric types running around that can handle ground types well, I think that could be a problem for him. But he went high utility first. He's got a really well-rounded squad, like two sick wall breakers and a Scavalier and Braviary, and I guess three with Sui and Decidueye because um, triple kick or whatever it is going to take lives. Tatsugiri's a great spinner and a fantastic water immune. Frostlet, like the hazards on this team. Jesus Christ. Um, other than Frostlass is not a great spin blocker in my opinion. Um, wow, the hazard control game on here is real strong. There's a couple of defog guys. Lunatone is a mod that I wanted to try as a Terra Captain. I'm so happy that he picked him up as a Terra Captain. I think that's totally sick. It's a levitating mon. It's got that old gen move pool with a lot of coverage. So even though it doesn't get Terra Blast, he could, switch to a lot of things. Um, Fairy, Ice, Psychic to give it adaptability. Like levitating mons tend to be the best Terra Captains, and Lunatone, especially for 6 points, uh, could all of a sudden get real scary. Like a Terra Poison Calm Mind set is going to be a menace for teams. So good luck. It's an unorthodox looking team. Um, and obviously pretty weak in the electric and fairy department. As much as Dedenne is a great speed tier, and at least with Super Fang, it's not that passive. But anybody with any of the good dragon types, are you really switching Dedenne in? No, you're going to a Scavalier, and it's going to get worn down. Then we got my team. God knows I've talked enough about my team. Um, Boss, I think had the best team last season. The fact that I think like three or four of his mons went in round one of this draft, I think speaks volumes. But for a very unfortunate circumstance where his house flooded, I think his squad last year wins it all. And where I think Tibbs has like the best looking squad on paper. I think the actual best squad, as hectic as it kind of looks down here, is going to be Boss. Um, I'm just looking like Mesprit and Skuntank is like this classic Smogon low tier duo. They're a fantastic core that just deal with so many things. And then you look at their big problem, of course, is speed. And what do you know? He gets Galvantula, who has a super relevant speed tier at this level, is going to take out a lot of the ground types with Energy Ball, Webs, those super accurate Thunders, like absolute monster here. In exchange for not much defensive utility, but like it's going to blow a lot of holes in things that people that aren't ready for it. Noivern, obviously all the speed control. It made me glad that I ended up getting Aggron because I'm going to need it. But you look at that, all the things that these Pokemon struggle with, and then you've got Beware that comes in, and Beware with Fluffy and then Terra to get it out of its awkward typing. So it is a ghost immunity. Yeah, it's that fighting type, but now all of a sudden you can add like more defensive usefulness. You can keep Fluffy and go like Terra Water, and now it's not weak to fire anymore, or Terra Dragon. or I don't know, some bullshit that he's going to pull. Like those 5 mons at the top, how the hell is anybody going to prep for that? There's Terra Golem, which ripped me apart last season, and I looked at Terra Golem a lot. I think it's super underrated for 4 points, guys. That amount of base attack, and just being able to rip Terra Blasts. I don't know. I think it needs to. I think it needs a bump next season. And then he just snagged Pelipper at the end, or towards the end. It's like a big fuck you to everybody. So now Boss can come in. He's got like an unreal 5-mon group, but now he can bring him on. He doesn't need anybody else to abuse Rain. And in fact, there's probably going to be some matches where Pelipper is deterred from Rain because there are a couple of swift swimmers around. But Pelipper's going to come in, boost at Scalds, hit some Hurricanes. It's going to pivot out to Noivern, who's going to come in and do the same bullshit. It's going to do Hurricanes of its own. He got Gorgeist as a deal. So there's your ghost type, there's your grass type. Like Laron, again, shouldn't be a 1-pointer. I think he proved that last season. This thing was a beast against me in playoffs. Unreal for 1 point. It can be a bit passive, and maybe now that people have seen how well it did last season, there's going to be some adaptations. We'll see. Luminion, I know it's 2 points. Its base stats suck, but it's got a water immunity. It's got some nice little coverage moves, and it's got pivot moves. It's not going to be that passive. So, interesting little mon. Charmeleon, I don't think comes. Prove me wrong. But Boss, I think, has the best team in the league. Good luck. I don't know how you prep for this. I don't know how you prep for this squad. I don't like everybody is going to look at their team and think, oh, yeah, well, I've got this guy. How's Boss going to prepare for that? No, he has an answer for you. And finally, Runeheel, who missed a couple of rounds of the draft. And it ended up working out for him because everybody spent their budget on whatever, and he had like 4 picks at the end, and he made some unreal, just cool picks, couple of Grace trades. Let's start at the top, which I think honestly his top 3 are probably the weakest part of the draft. Fortress and Guzzlord obviously have great synergy on paper. In practice, I think they're both slow. I think Fortress is definitely very passive, and I don't know what they do to really support Drapion. Maybe I'll get proven wrong, but I look at that and I look at my team and I think that stacks up pretty well in the top 3. Like I think I'll be interested to see what his thinking was with these top 3 and how they're going to kind of work together to help him out. And one of the answers is like the rest of his team is just really really cool. Terra Flareon. Guys, Flareon has like 130 base special attack or 130 base attack. Like what the fuck? Guts, Facade, Terra Normal. That's gonna hurt. Quick attack gets around its speed. It's a fire immunity if it wants. Great for Fortress. Not that he really needs it. Dust Noir, I don't think Dust Noir is great, but in terms of having that immediate power, his squad's got a lot of it. Arctovish, I know Gabe wanted Arctovish. It's a weird mon. Vicious Rend is really alluring, but that speed stat and there's no real hail support here for it, which I think it needs. Coolmon, decent base stats. I'm interested to see where it goes. I guess one of the big straws is you get freeze dry. Spidops, another mon I looked at for a long time. Spidops had a niche for a while in Gen 9 OU. In low tier, I think it slept on for 4 points. All those hazards, spikes, toxic spikes, sticky webs. U-turn, first impression, stakeout. If you position this correctly and your opponent is switching around, no one wants to take a stakeout boosted U-turn. It still hits hard enough even on its mediocre attack. First impression is going to hit like a truck. This thing needs to be brought offensively more. And there are a lot of Mons that are going to rue the day that they had their trainers not prepare for it. Obviously, Gligar 11 pointer. I love Gligar. I felt like it felt like an 11 pointer by the end of the season. But you look at his squad. Gligar fits so well here. He's got a couple of great ice resists, not Clamperl, and all that hazard setting and utility between Gligar, Spidops, and fucking Fortress is unreal. And then you throw in Terra Smeargle, who has all those hazards, but because there's so much other hazards on the team, like he doesn't even need to bring Smeargle as a hazard setter. He just brings Smeargle as whatever garbage BS gimmick he wants to tailor make for his opponent to make their lives miserable, and it's gonna work out. And then he's got Rotom Fan as like another great utility mon, another ground immune. Pairs decently well with Guzzlord. Yeah, really, it's like it's a janky looking team, but I said the same thing about his squad last year, and he had a really good season and a really good team. And I'm interested to see as a Huntail fan what he can get out of Clamperl, who hits like Pikachu with Deep Sea Tooth. I want to see it. So anyway, this video with my first clip before Freya came in is going to be over an hour. So that's a lot. My voice is tired. This was a nice way to decompress after work. So if you've been listening this far to my voice just ramble on about Mons, thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. I do this for fun, maybe entertainment, and to hopefully not give away too many of my secrets. That's why I don't do the post-match commentary anymore, because I feel like I was giving away my entire thought process. But to wrap it up, I'm really, really excited. As much as the break felt like a long time between seasons, it also just helped me get really hyped up for this season and study up and read a lot about guys, and to end up with this team of 11. So many of them that I wanted pre-draft, and a couple of them that really surprised me. I'm super excited for this squad. It's if you rolled up in the Pokemon universe and you saw a motherfucker with these 11 Mons sitting around him, and 6 of them just showed up, you're like, this guy's a fucking loser. And you probably say that right before this team works you over. So it's a quirky bunch. I'm really excited to try it out and just see what lessons I can learn about low tier and about these Mons. So thanks for listening, guys. I hope everyone has a great season. If you're not playing low tier, what the fuck? We needed more guys. We could have gone with 16. Think about joining us next season. This is Pokemon at its best. It's about creativity. It's about being a nerd and just reading a lot of shit. And also it's about having fun and using a bunch of really cool Pokemon that would otherwise never see the light of day. And that is ultimately, what draft is great for too. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you after the season, probably, for a season review. Bye.